Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize for that taking so long today. I've been having all kinds of problems with my between the computer and the roadcaster and everything else that's gone on within the last 24 hours. Days of our lives around here. So anyway, today I know I promised to come out with this at 1 o'clock. It's taken me this long to get the roadcaster up and going, which is unfortunate. And also, I've been having trouble with my my camera, so I've got to use unfortunately, just the MacBook Air, but it's 4K, so it's not a bad picture. It's not the best, but it's all right. Bid you a good afternoon from Coyote, Wyoming, coming at you from 52 miles east of the entrance to Yellowstone Park in beautiful Coyote, Wyoming, on this happy July 1st. Right around the corner from July 4th, which is typically the most busy time of the year here in Coyote. We'll end up with, sometimes some 100,000 guests here. So, that being said, there's a special topic that I wanted to approach today, and I hope this is coming through. I guess if any of you have my phone number out there and happen to be tuned in, maybe you can let me know if everything's coming through okay, because I had to kind of do a little bit of a switch up. It's hotter than hell in this studio, too. I don't know. All LED lit. I don't know where this heat's coming from. Might be coming off the Roadcaster over here. Anyway, yeah, I'm using the Roadcaster Pro. Great little piece of equipment. If you're interested in doing something like this, you should pick that up. We're broadcasting on Sterling mics and using OBS Studio. And what else we got going on here? Usually on a Canon. We've got the GVM2 light system going in here. And I don't know what else I could possibly plug right now. But we're coming at you through anchor.fm. This should be live streaming on YouTube. Should be live streaming on Facebook Live. So you should be able to tune into either of those places and catch this live right now. And then, like I said, we're on anchor.fm, which is it's a really good platform. They automatically put your content out there, at least audio wise, to Spotify and Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts, et cetera, et cetera. Enough of the advertisements. We're going to get into it right now. And I'm not going to bring up any names because I'm fairly certain that the person that I'm speaking about is probably either Facebook stalking me out right now, or he'll probably be watching it exactly as soon as he gets home. So, without further ado, again, I happen to have a house guest who is trying to stay away from an individual that has been harassing her, stalking her, and that includes following her all over town. He tried following me yesterday, and rather than turning the way that a person normally would, I headed out toward the hills, seeing if he'd follow me, which he was smart enough not to. The individual has been asked not to come on the property, not to come on anywhere near my home. She's been harassed with phone calls. He shows up where she's been staying with just her and another lady and her child. So obviously you've got a situation in which, it's a little scary for them. The gentleman has lots of firearms. I shouldn't even call him a gentleman. I'm not even going to go that route anymore. This dude has a lot of firearms, and he's pretty much at the point of a psychotic break right now. I happened to help. I helped this woman. She was doing a good deed and trying to take care of some people's things, and needed help moving some large items. To which I told her I would help if she needed to help. This stalker said he was going to help her, but he wouldn't show up. And so she contacted me, and any of you know me, know I'll help. So I loaded up the trailer and hitched up, and we went and got stuff, The next morning, I get a message from the guy saying that he wants to come over to my house and hook up to my trailer and take these. I'm like, you're not hooking up to my tool trailer, dude. What the hell's wrong with you? I got thousands and thousands of dollars of tools in there, and it's mine. There's no way. And I just asked where he was at. I said, I'll come drop it off if you're the one who gets it. And I had no idea what was going on. So I asked her if that was okay. She said, yeah, I'll take it out to him. So I again, go out of my way, take the stuff out there, get stuck with him chewing my ear off for about 3 hours. And, I didn't think anything of it. And I'd asked him about the female. I asked if he was in a relationship with her. He said no. I asked her if likewise, because he was acting kind of weird. He got really weird over the fact that I picked this stuff up. Doesn't even belong to him. And then all of a sudden he shows up at my house. He's sending her text messages accusing her of being in a relationship with me, but they're not even in a relationship. And, he's driving by the place she's staying constantly, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, parking up the street, spying on her, showing up unannounced, knocking on the door, stole her cell phone, stole her money. And I've been of the mindset and offered the advice to just call the police, call law enforcement, because you don't want to mess around with this. And this is where we're going here. And this kind of thing does happen to men as well. So this is not just for the ladies, because it does happen to men. And I've been through it recently with an individual that I couldn't get out of my house, who I just tried to help. And it took forever. And I went through physical, emotional abuse. My son took it. There was all sorts of bad things that happened, property destruction. And then when I did try to evict this individual, she served me with a copied piece of paper citing the COVID-19 eviction moratorium. And because she had gone to court while she was here, she had mail sent to my house. And so when law enforcement showed up, they asked me if she had mail here. And I said, yeah. And they said, this is a tough one here. And they said, we suggest you contact your lawyer and get her served. And so I did. And that's when she came back with the COVID thing. And then, it turned into a sticky wicket. And it took me quite some time to get her out of here. It was a really difficult deal. And it's especially difficult as a man, because when you're in that situation, law enforcement is always going to, I hate to say it, but they're going to take the side of the female. They're going to show up. They're going to go, well, on a domestic, they're going to go, somebody needs, all the people were just saying, no, just throw her stuff out there. She doesn't pay any rent, doesn't pay any bills. Chuck her stuff out in the street and get rid of her, and that's easy to say. But I've got my son at home, and I'm always got. So what happens if I get thrown in jail? If I get some rookie police officer that shows up here? So that's a difficult thing to deal with. So anyway, what we're dealing with now, I wake up this morning, right? So she stay over here because she's doesn't feel safe, and I don't blame her, because this guy's a nutbag. So I said, well, look, before you go back to your home, whatever, I said, you're free to stay here. Just, I always feel like it's, I've always felt like I should do whatever I can to, protect and stand up for people that, necessarily aren't going to be able to do so against a full-grown man with a bunch of firearms. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm capable of handling myself. Probably more so than I should be. And that scares me, because when I see red, it gets bad. And I'm not trying to talk myself up. I don't like violence. I don't want to be involved in violence ever again. But if I have to be, then I have to be, and that's how it goes. Been where I've been, and I'm not really too scared or worried about much of anybody. I don't even care if you come at me with your guns blazing. You better not be shaken. That's all I'm saying. I ain't threatening anybody, nothing like that. However, in this scenario, I really can't go and do anything like that. First inclination is like, oh, I'm just going to go, beat the brakes off this fool, and done deal. But then I risk going to jail, and at the end of the day, what I also risk is leaving my son alone. He doesn't have a mom anymore. It's just me and him. So I have to be very careful in the way in which I carry myself and my actions. So what we're going to talk about is how you handle a stalking situation. And what happened today was just absolutely ridiculous. I wake up to a doorbell, and it is the Cody Police Department. Now, this is not their fault. They're just doing what they're supposed to do. So what this guy has done, this stalker, is he's called in a welfare check. So he's making himself sound like he's, somehow, the knight in shining armor or something like that. He's known me my whole life. He knows that I would never hurt a female. In fact, he knows that's one of my pet peeves. It's one of the things that irritates me more than anything. And I've been on the other side of it domestically with females that have thrown shit at me and hit me and beat me, and I mean, I've been beat up in my sleep. I mean, anybody who knows me knows that I don't like men hitting women. I don't like people abusing children. I don't like people exercising their power, their manipulation, and their bullshit over somebody that they can control. And that's what a stalker is going to do. Okay, and this is going out. I'm not trying to just single this out for the ladies out there, but men, I know you guys go through it too, because like I said, I've been there, and it's a difficult thing to deal with. It's just, there's two different facets of it, whether you be a male or a female, right? On the man side of it, you're dealing with a female that they threaten with calling law enforcement on you, making up stories. I've even seen it where they'll lock themselves in the back room and actually are crazy enough to hit themselves in the face and then call law enforcement. Of course, then law enforcement, they send out some rookie police officer, doesn't know the scenario, the situation. And you can't blame the officer. He shows up and you've got a female that's all beat up and you got a man standing there and she's making wild accusations. And as a man, if you don't document these things, which I did in the last situation, I've got 65 some odd recordings of the nonsense that went on. And anytime anybody who's listened to it, who knows me, they know what I'm talking about. They've heard it and they just go, "Oh my God, you dealt with that for almost 2 years?" I said, "Yeah, sure did. Good old Mike," and I didn't ever raise a hand against her. The only thing I ever did, I think I restrained her one night and she head-butted me and then bit me in the lip after throwing my grandmother's coffee cup at me, which was real nice. Shattered that, so that's nice. Slammed doors, broke things, would hide clothes from my kid. I mean, I turned my locks around and basically almost every night I slept out in a lawn chair in my garage. And I turned the locks in the garage around so they weren't, able to be opened from the outside. Because God knows, I mean, who knows what would have happened in my sleep, Basically hijacked my house and I was stuck with that forever. And it took me a long time and a lot of planning and a lot of, it took me quite a bit to get the whole damn thing done with and settled. And when I finally called the police at the end of the whole deal, before I left, I said, "Look, she's going to call you guys." And the sergeant basically said, "Oh, you got that crazy beep at your house still?" And I said, "About 15 minutes left, and I said, "It's one of your, I said, I want one of your patrol units to pull me over." And he said, "Don't worry, Mike." He goes, I see it as you're just moving her things to a safe place. He goes, "I'll let patrol know." I said, "Thank you very much, sir." And, went in and said, "It's time to go." She started screeching at me about how she's going to call the police. And I said, "Go right ahead. Ask for Officer beep, beep, beep." Yeah, I'm not trying to put anybody's names out there. But anybody that knows me knows who I'm talking about on all these scenarios anyways. And that's how I finally got that situation done with. And it went on for nearly 2 years. It damaged my son. I had to put a lock on his door that he only had a key to. That way he could lock himself in there at night because we never knew when she was going to be coming in at 4 o'clock, just extremely intoxicated and out of her mind, screaming, yelling, making scenes. I mean, I let my yard go to shit because I was embarrassed to even go outside in front of the neighbors that I'd lived next to for, 5 years. And that was all over a good deed. She had some crazy guy that was threatening to kill her, and I offered her a place to fall for a minute to get it together and get away from the guy. And it turned into almost a 2-year ordeal. So men go through this stuff too. But ladies, what you got to do here, and men too, it happens on a different, it almost always seems to happen a little bit different. When it's a female, the man seems to be a manipulator. He'll use threats. Shows up all the time, follows you around, calls you nonstop, stalks your Facebook pages, sometimes it'll install spyware on your phone, sits outside and watches you, will watch your Facebook and see if you're talking to any other guys, even if they're not in a relationship with you, which is just, to me, I don't understand, but there's a psychology behind this behavior that's not good. And what ends up happening is a lot of times these things turn out bad, because these individuals, they're narcissistic and they are sociopaths, and a lot of times they exhibit psychotic behavior as well. But what a narcissist does is they don't ever accept responsibility for their actions or what they've done. They never apologize for anything. Now I personally, I spend a lot of time apologizing because you know what? I make a lot of mistakes. So be it. I'll admit it. I'm not even close to, I'm not even in the realm of maybe not even good. I try to be a good person, but I still make a lot of mistakes all the time, constantly. I make mistakes parenting. I make mistakes with, work. I make mistakes with things I say on a podcast. I make mistakes with things I put on social media. You name it. I make mistakes with repairs I make on vehicles. I make mistakes when I'm welding. It happens, and that's how you learn. But a narcissist will never, ever, they'll never come forth and admit any kind of weakness, and they will never take responsibility for their actions. And especially so when they're terrorizing somebody else. They think that they're in the right, and you cannot talk to these people. You can't. So if you have somebody that's stalking you, first of all, and it's hard to do. What they're looking for is any kind of interaction with you. So they will send you text messages. They will call from spoofed numbers, or they will call from another person's phone that you know. And oftentimes, if you're the victim of a stalker or being harassed by one of these individuals, you feel a certain amount of shame over it, so you don't disclose it to people. So anybody going through this, I encourage you've got to talk to somebody about it. Family, friends, law enforcement, somebody. You have got to let them know what's happening. Because this morning, I wake up and there's 2 police officers at my house. This guy has called the police, making me look like I'm obviously going to do something, right? I'm trying to harbor this person and keep them safe because I'm concerned about her well-being with this guy. So I'm the one that's trying to help and be, a decent human being and look out for somebody, because I know how it goes with the police. You call them and they, and a lot of times people don't want to file a protection order either. And that especially goes for men, because we have this notion that we're tougher than that, right? Like my brother comes over to the house and I tell him what's going on. And he goes, "We need to touch somebody up or what?" I said, "No, man, he ain't worth it." And he's not. I mean, these people are not worth it. It's not worth you going out and doing something violent to combat them. You have to, but what you do have to do is you do have to stand up for yourself, and you have to be proactive, and you have to go through the necessary means to keep somebody like this from hurting you. Because so often when you see, you'll see these murder suicides and stuff on the news, and most of the time when that happens, it is a man. And I'm going to be honest about that. Like I said, the harassment comes in different forms, I think, from each side. And that's not being gender biased, okay? So any social justice warriors out there, don't come at me like that, because typically the harassment occurs in different facets. A man is more of a, the situations are, it's a dominance type thing. Whereas it's a female on a man, it's a manipulation type deal, whether they get dirt on you or, figure out that you're a decent human being. Like what happened to me, I'm just a nice guy, and then they figure that out, and they understand that you're not going to do anything. Like the things that were spoken to me, if you were a man, you'd be picking your teeth up straight up. And I just have to sit there and let it go. And I mean, these are things that I'm straight up. If a man said those things to me, I don't care how big you are. I don't care if you're 7'5". You say these things to me and you're a dude, I'm probably going to take off on you. So it's a different type of deal, but it still happens on both sides of the court. I mean, I think I saw that there was, I want to say last year it was like 119 million women. This is just documented, and it was like 300 million men had gone through some kind of harassment. So actually the number of last year was actually higher for men, which is kind of hard. People don't believe that, but it's true. We just don't say anything about it because it makes us question our manhood. It makes us think that we look weak. It makes us think that, that we're going to be looked at as inadequate in society because we do something like file an order of protection. But as a man, like especially in my situation, you have to look at something like that and realize, okay, there's somebody underneath all this that's being hurt, and that was my son, and that's what's unbearable. As you sit there and you watch harm come towards your child, and really that's all. I mean, there's really nothing more out there that I mean, every decision I make is based on how's this going to affect my son, and I still make bad decisions, and because I don't know. I mean, I don't know I don't know what I'm doing as a parent. I don't, and I'm a father. And I'm. You guys know me. I'm me. I mean, I try to be kind and decent, and try and do good things for people. And I typically think that I'm quite giving, and I share what I have. Try to offer wisdom. I try to also listen to people too. I don't have a problem listening to people. I don't have a problem being called out on stuff. I don't have a problem being told that I'm wrong. If I am, then if I'm wrong and somebody calls me out on it and I realize that they are correct and that I've been wrong, I actually usually thank them because I appreciate the information, because I don't want to be I don't want to be going sideways on something. If I'm screwing up or if I'm saying something that somebody can show me that I'm incorrect, then tell me and I'll probably thank you. I mean, I used to tell guys that worked for me, I said, look, here's how I want it done. If you have a better, more efficient way of doing it, and it turns out better, tell me about it. You'll probably get a raise and a pat on the back in recognition for it. I'm not going to sit there and take credit for somebody else's idea. You come up with an idea on how to, paint something out quicker, do whatever, anything. It doesn't matter, Show me where I'm wrong or where I can be better, and I will thank you for it, because I'm not going to get in my feelings about it, because I'm not trying to have that ego, because I know who I am, and I know I'm fallible and make mistakes, and it's going to keep on happening. It's not like it's just one day you're just going to ascend to being a perfect human being. None of us are. So anyway, in these situations, what you have to do is you got to be proactive about it, and you have to let somebody know. First of all, you've got to let somebody know. You can't just take the brunt of being stalked or harassed and just, I think what happens is people get in this mindset that it's somehow their fault, that they somehow deserve that. And you don't. Nobody deserves that. You don't deserve to be made to feel uneasy. You don't deserve to be fearful in your home. You don't deserve to be followed around. You don't deserve to have threatening phone calls made to you. You don't deserve to have somebody, Facebook or Instagram stalking you, or hacking into your computer, or stealing your phone. Another thing in relationships, folks, is this something that I do not tolerate at all. I do not and have not ever got into somebody else's phone, even if it's sitting in front of me and the thing goes off and lights up and it has a notification on a banner on. I don't look at it. You know why? Because it's not my business. It doesn't matter if I'm in a relationship with somebody, if I'm married to somebody, even if it's just a friend of mine, I'm not going to look at their phone. And if you're in a situation where you're with somebody and they have to look at your phone all the time, you're not in a relationship. You're in a bad deal, and you have a stalker on your hands, because that is the start of that behavior. If you're with somebody and you trust them so little that you have to look at their phone constantly, then you shouldn't be in that relationship. And if you're on either end of it, you should recognize that. But typically the person on the end of it that has to look at the phone, they're the narcissistic sociopath. They have to have and maintain this control over you. It's like they've got to know everything you're doing, who you're talking to, who you're hanging out with, where you're going, when are you coming back. And it's just manipulation, and then they'll play the classic, I'm going to kill myself thing. That's a good one. They will do whatever they can to maintain contact with you, or to get you to reach out and contact them. So they'll create fake emergencies. They will come up with scenarios in which they absolutely have to talk to you, and you're the only one on the planet that can solve their problem. And please help me, please, And that's about the only time a narcissist will apologize, is if there's some way to get back in touch with you and have you respond. You can block their number, you can block them from email, you can block them from social media. It doesn't stop them from setting up fake accounts. And now with the way phones are, you can get on the App Store and you can do a spoof number. And so they can call you from a completely different number. They can just make one up and put the call through. So if you're a person that's, you're being stalked and you're getting weird numbers coming through that you don't know, if you don't have a name associated with it and you've got a stalker out there, I would advise you not to answer that phone call. Do not answer that phone call. If you get Facebook requests or Instagram requests from somebody you don't know, I used to just accept them from everybody. I didn't know any better. I know, especially when I got out of prison, I did that because I'd say, "Oh, here, look, this is a good-looking lady here that just sent me a request." I didn't understand the whole Facebook. I didn't know. And I laugh a lot of times because a lot of times I'll get those requests on IG or whatever, and then I'll look to see, like I always look to see if I have mutual friends with somebody if I don't know them. That's the first thing I'll look at. Do I have mutual friends? And a lot of times it'll be these girls like in a bikini or whatever, and it'll be like some weird like address on there or whatever. And I just always think, oh, this is some guy named Igor in a downstairs computer lab somewhere, just making this shit up. Excuse me. But many times I'll look on there and I'll see if there's mutual friends. And a lot of times it's guys I was in prison with. I know what boat they're in because it's the same thing I went through. I had to go through and clean house on a lot of that stuff because I didn't know. I just thought, I put out this snappy picture of myself and this lady's interested. Accept, and then I'm getting weird messages about, going to weird chat rooms that are, websites or whatever. And I'd look and see mutual friends and I'd see it'd be like a couple of my dogs that I was, in the joint with and be like, hey, hit him up. Hey, man, you might want to ditch that thing. It never fails. It seems like almost every one of them, there's somebody that I know from there. And I think that's what they prey on is they realize that, I think they look around, they find guys that have just got out and stuff. I mean, some of those guys I was in with were, dudes that went in at 18 years old and got out and, 20 years later. So, the world completely changed for them. They get a smartphone when they get out. I was much the same way. The phone I had when I went in was a little flippy dippy thing. There was no, it was just I think I had Pong on it or something like that. And I could text message on it. That's about it. I don't even think I'd get on the internet with that thing. But so anyway, that's something that you got to think about if you got a stalker. You need to talk to somebody. You need to monitor your social media, and you need to be very careful with your phones. The other thing I would advise is to get a VPN on your any of your devices that you go online with, because that's going to mask your IP address. And if you do have somebody who's a potential, a cyber stalker, because a lot of people do have that ability, then they're going to have a very much more difficult time getting your IP address and tracking your internet activity. They're going to have a lot harder time accessing your bank account and any other number of things that you do online. And in fact, if you're, I run a VPN on pretty much everything anyhow. It doesn't stop the VPN people from, the people that work there from accessing it. So it's not necessarily a 100% fail-safe deal, but it could potentially keep a stalker from following any of your internet activity and social media stuff and just mask your IP address. Another thing that I would suggest is learn some self-defense. It's not always going to be something that's going to, help you out. But if you do have that in your arsenal, and there's a lot of different places that you can look up self-defense and stuff. There's a couple of decent moves I can tell you right now. If you do the, this is one right here where you don't even have to hit anybody that hard, but the side of your hand right there, okay, you've got an artery that runs up your neck, right? If you can give somebody that chop right there across that neck, you will knock them out immediately. Another place, you hit them right in the sternum right there, straight on, boom. Ladies, kick a guy in the nuts. You can kick a guy in the knee and hyperextend his knee, but the big thing is to maintain vigilant, watch where you're going, be careful of dark places at night. I would recommend carrying either mace, a taser, or both. And be ready to call law enforcement too. And if somebody's putting you in this type of a position, don't be afraid to get an order of protection. I don't care if you're a male or a female, because on either end of the spectrum, you can get yourself into a complete mess. And if that order is filed, yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable. You're going to have to go into court in front of a judge, and you're going to have to sit there with that person sitting there, and you're going to have to give them evidence of what they've done. You're going to have to come out with a list of phone calls. You're going to have to come out with a list of text messages, photos of the stalking that's gone on. If there's been physical altercations where you've had injuries, take pictures of them. And, because you never know when you're going to have to use this. If things are going on as a verbal screaming and verbal abuse, you've got a voice memo on your phone. Hit record. They don't have to know that you're doing it. And if there's somebody that takes your phone, then that's all the more reason to get that protection order. Anybody who takes anybody else's phone, they need to have a protection order put against them. And I'm not a big advocate of calling law enforcement. I mean, I consider myself to be able to take care of things just fine. However, there are situations in which you need to protect yourself. And if there is documentation of these things that have gone on, you're going to be sitting in the driver's seat when it comes down to it, and you might end up going through, you're going to go through a whole version and a litany of hell anyways in the interim with a stalker or a harasser, because they don't stop. The behavior doesn't ever end. That you can, like this guy, I told him to stay off my property. He shows up banging on my door at 3 a.m. Anybody around here would know that if I tell you to stay away and stay off my property, it's probably not a good idea. And, had I not been laying there with no boots on and in bed with no pants on, I screamed out the window at him, get the hell out of here, beat it, and yelling at, had I had my boots and my jeans on at that point in time, I guess what? He probably would not have had a good time. Probably not at all. And then the fact that he calls the police on me and tries to flip the script and make me look like I'm the problem is just absolutely, that's ridiculous, and it's a good thing that this didn't happen back in the day before I had my son with me, because things might have not turned out so well. And they're not going to turn out well for him anyways. And I know he's out there listening, so he should know that he's going to be getting served with some paperwork and some letters and this and that and the other thing, and that he's already on blast with the police, because when I talked to him this morning, they realized what was really going on. And they just told me, hey, Mike, don't do anything, okay? They're like, it shows up just, because they know me. They're like, just call us. We will be here. We know about this now. And I said, okay. So I'm gonna operate on that, because I don't need to be getting thrown in jail over a piece of garbage that harasses females. Although my first inclination is to go and do something, unwise. We'll say it that way. I'm not going to. But the bottom line with this is that you have to be proactive about it. You can't be ashamed. And you can't let people do this kind of thing to you. You have to stand up to it. And the way that you stand up to it, especially in this day and age, we've got all the social media, you can't get away with taking a guy out in the woods and beating the piss out of him anymore. It's just not going to happen. Your cell phone that you're carrying around with you is a tracking device. Most of the new vehicles that you have, they got OnStar or any of that shit, tracking device. You're going to be seen doing whatever it is you're doing. Somebody's going to know about it somewhere. So you can't take matters into your own hands. That takes you down to their level. What you have to do, first of all, like I said, you got to let somebody know. It doesn't matter, family, friends. If you don't have any family or friends, you need to call law enforcement, and you need to get, that way there's documentation, and then document everything. Anytime something happens that's screwed up, you got to document it. And the other thing too is you can't blame yourself. You can't sit there and blame yourself. You don't need to apologize to other people for the behavior of a stalker, especially if it's somebody trying to help you out. You don't need to apologize to them, because it's not your fault. You didn't do this. You're not responsible for their action. Yes, they're stalking you. It's not your fault. You didn't ask for that. Especially, when you've told somebody to leave you alone, stay away, don't, and they just keep doing it. It's not your fault. So don't be apologetic. Stand tall and don't take it. If you run into them somewhere in a public scenario and you're going through the process of getting a protection order or whatever filed, Get away from them. Do whatever you can to break free of the scenario. Get someplace where you're in front of people. If they're gonna like leech onto you and follow you, and make sure, like, I mean, you go out in the parking lot and they come up, turn around and go back in the store. And on your way, be dialing your police station or 911 or whatever you got to do. But if you have that order in place, then you know they're not going to follow the order. I can tell you that right now. These psychopaths, they don't follow the protection order, but at least when you file it, it's in place. And then you have something to fall back on. And you don't end up being in a female's case a lot of time. I mean, you end up in a murder-suicide scenario. Or in a man's situation, you end up being falsely arrested for domestic abuse from a female that's set you up. I mean, a majority of the time, law enforcement and in the legal system, they listen to the female in these cases. And I'm not saying that, so I'm not saying that I'm obviously not saying that there aren't male abusers out there. There are. There are tons of them, and I fucking hate them. I can't stand them. I can't stand anybody who, uses their strength or their physical presence or, threats or any kind of abuse of power over somebody else, whether it be, the manipulations, exploitations, blackmail, anything like that. I can't stand it. I hate it. That's one of the things I despise more than anything is people like that, It's like, stand on your own 2 feet. If somebody asks you not to be around them, says they don't want you in their home anymore or whatever, and, pack your things and go. Don't sit there and stalk somebody. But I can't say that because they won't listen. And if the stalkers are listening to this right now, they're not going to listen to what I have to say either because they don't care. They don't care. They have no sense of remorse for anything. They've got really no decency. And they'll act like it. They'll tell you this and that and the other thing. They use kindness when they do use it. They use it as a manipulation to make you think that they're good. So they don't do nice things for people because they want to do something nice for somebody. They use it as a manipulation so that at some point, down the road, they can say, "Oh, remember what I did for you?" Then they throw it in your face. Remember what I did for you? Oh, yeah, okay, this is how you're going to treat me? They use these things as opportunities, and then they throw them back in your face, and then they try and make you feel bad like you're the bad guy, and you always sit there and you try and find something good in these people, and you can't. There's nothing good in them. And you cannot change these type of individuals, and I'll go a bit further, like in relationships, you can't. If you're in a relationship with a negative person, you can't change them. You're never going to. You're not going to change them. What's going to happen is you're going to get brought down. You're going to get taken down because that's the way it works. And anybody who's been through 7th grade math knows that if you multiply a negative number by a positive number, you're going to end up with a negative number, right? The same goes in relationships. And that's what makes them so difficult because you have to find somebody that you're with that is on the same level as you. You almost have to be like right there at the same place. And even then it's difficult. But if you're sitting there and you're in a relationship with somebody that is an abuser and you think, oh, I'm going to change him, I'm going to change her, I can do it. It occupies your time. You waste time. You waste days, years of your life trying to hopefully someday turn that person into something that they're not. And you're not going to do it. And it's tough to walk away, but, unless you want to spend years of your life living in misery and fear and just have, in order for us to do good things in life, we have to be focused on what we're doing. We have to be able to, just go after those things. And when you have negativity that's coming at you, it's always in the back of your mind. It's always right there. You're always thinking about it. You're always going, oh, shit, how's this going to play out today? How's it, you're always worried about it. And in doing that, you detract from your calling in life, what you want to focus on in life, where you want to go, what you want to do. And a lot of times what people want to do, it's not even about them per se. I mean, what I want to do with this podcast is I like talking with people. And I like the opportunity to get different voices out there. And I like to hear different perspectives. And it does me good. And hopefully it does other people good too. I mean, that's my idea with the whole thing. And it's yet to really take off. It is what it is. most people enjoy it, and I hope they do. I'm not trying to do anything negative or bad or hurt anybody with this. It's something that makes me feel good in doing. It's a way to get a lot of my stuff out because, quite frankly, I don't talk to a lot of people. I don't have a lot of friends. And so it's an opportunity for me to be able to voice things that I'm thinking about. And in this world, that's kind of how we do it these days, I guess. And, and I want to be a platform that'll allow other people to speak their mind on things, come on, tell their story. And, you guys all heard Ricardo's story recently. Amazing individual, amazing story. If you haven't listened to that podcast, I would recommend that you do so. It's on my YouTube channel at The Mic'd Files. And I believe it's on my Facebook page, The Mic'd Files, as well. But that's an amazing story, and that came across just from talking to a guy at the Walmart liquor store. I mean, just starting up a small chat. And then he told me a little bit of his story, and I just went, whoa, oh man, Asked him if he wanted to come on. He said, took a little while. He thought about it, and then he came on, and he's just been a great guest. And become a really good friend, and so that's kind of what my that's like my trajectory with this whole thing. It's called The Mic'd Files, but it's about everybody else. It's not about me. If I do episodes like this, I'm trying to help other people because I just went through a 24 hours of hell over some narcissistic scumbag that it won't leave this female alone, and he's making her life hell. And I guess, like my brother told me today, he goes, Mike, you've always kind of been the knight in shining armor. And I didn't think about it. And I was like, well, I guess I always have tried to help people that need it. And sometimes it's came back and bit me in the ass. But I guess I would rather err on the side of trying to help somebody in need than err on the side of turning my back on somebody in need and having something bad happen to them. It doesn't mean that I'm not a superhero or anything like that, but if I can help somebody, I will. And a lot of times I do so at my own peril and sacrifice things in my own life to do so. But that's also part of being a human being and part of growing. Sometimes you have to be willing to put yourself out there for an innocent person and somebody that needs the help and somebody that is struggling. And if you have the capacity to do so, you should. At least that's my thought. I mean, I try and, I oftentimes try and go by the motto of not my circus, not my monkeys. Sometimes I can turn my back on something, and sometimes I can't. And I guess if that's a character flaw, then it's a character flaw. But I'd rather have a flaw that I helped somebody than a flaw that I didn't. So hopefully this has been helpful for any of you out there that are going through this. But there are things that you can do to take control of these situations. But what you have to do is you have to be willing to go through these steps. You got to let somebody know. You got to document it. You have to file the paperwork, and you have to take the steps. Unfortunately, it's going to be uncomfortable because you a lot of things that you're used to doing that you don't even think about. You probably shouldn't do. You go to the store at night. You should probably make sure that you're parked under a streetlight. I mean, don't put yourself in. Don't go leaving a bar late at night, and walking around a dark corner to your car or in the alleyway where you parked or whatever, because you don't want to get a DUI and you're trying to find a place to park so the cops don't see you. Take a fucking cab. If you're in Cody, call my boy Kevin. Shout out to Kevin. He'll take care of you. Good dude right there. Oh yeah, and you see this spiffy 1981 World Series jersey that I got on right now? And this nice new Dodger hat. That came from my boy, Keldron Joshua. Shout out to K-Pook out there in L.A. Looking forward to seeing you. Hopefully we make this trip to Atlanta happen this time. We had a tragedy that unfolded last time, and I needed to stay here with family and deal with that. And so hopefully we'll make that happen this time. I'm really looking forward to it. So hopefully it all works out. Shout out to Toad out there. What's up, Toad? My boy Tom Booth, ain't seen him in days. Need to run into him. My cousin Cameron Thompson. Hopefully we'll be in touch here. Maybe even tonight we might do another podcast with he and I. We haven't had the chance to do that because I've been having problems with these computers. Y'all know me. I don't know this stuff. I'm kind of a mental midget when it comes to dealing with all these things. I'm learning as time goes by. But who knows if this is even coming out. You guys may be hearing it. You may not. I might just be babbling in the wind. Anyways, nobody knows. But, you know, if you got anything like this going on in your life and you need to reach out to me, reach out to me. I've got something like 400 odd some voicemails I haven't been able to get to. I've got 300 text messages, and I don't even know how many thousands of emails. I try to go through them as often as I can. So be persistent. If I don't get right back to you, hit me up again. Hit me up on the social media, whatever. But if you know, if I can offer you advice or, you know, anything on this, I mean, I'm no expert, but just through experience, I'm telling you that you got to get on top of it. You can't play the victim role and just continue to be a victim. You have to step up for yourself. And you might have to make some uncomfortable decisions that you don't want to make. You might have to do some things that are uncomfortable that you don't want to have to go through. And you might have to, I mean, you might even care about the person that's doing this to you, but you've got to understand that they've manipulated you to a point where, you know, you think you're the one that's at fault, and this is happening because of you, and it's not. Nobody deserves this type of behavior. Nobody deserves this type of treatment, and you don't deserve to live your life that way. We all have the inherent right to, you know, as decent human beings, to go through life with as little stress as possible. Obviously, there's the, you know, the stress of everyday living. It's going to be there. We're all going to have stress. You know, it doesn't matter. It's going to come from all angles, but it doesn't need to be coming from an abuser or a stalker or somebody that's just giving you a living hell. You don't deserve to live in that type of a situation. It's not good for you, and you know, a lot of these things end in violence too. That's the other thing. You know, you got guys like me that, you know, you got I'm in no means am I saying I'm a vigilante. Do I want to be a vigilante sometimes when I see this shit go on? Yeah, you bet your ass I do. But I can't. I'm not Batman. You know, it doesn't exist. I can handle myself, and you know what? I'm not embarrassed to if I have to go get an order. I don't care, because you know what it does is it protects me. And quite possibly, it protects the other individual too. You know, I mean, maybe they got to go and go away for a while. You know, but the thing is that they're never going to learn. These people, this behavior type, this personality type, they don't change. So if you have any kind of misconception about how you're going to change this individual, and if they promise you they're not going to do this again or not do that, they're not. They're telling you that to get back in your good graces so they can come right back in and start doing the same thing over and over again. It's a difficult thing to deal with. And there's a lot of psychological issues involved in it. Not only from their end being, you know, screwed up in the head, but also you're going through psychological issues. And a lot of you who've gone through these type of things, you're probably suffering from PTSD and going through things that you don't even understand you're going through that aren't healthy and not good. So, I mean, like I said, reach out to somebody if you think that something like this is going on. At least get a perspective on it from somebody else. And don't be afraid to do what you have to do. Ask for help from somebody. You know, get somebody that's got your back that'll help you through it, because it's not easy to deal with. And there's a lot of shame that people, I think, feel from these type of situations, because the stalker or the harasser, or obviously the abuser, whatever they may be, whatever category they fall in, they make you feel guilty. They make you feel like this is your fault, that you brought this on yourself. And if it hadn't been for you, then they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. That's bullshit. They're doing what they're doing because they're psychopaths and they're narcissists, and they don't care about you. They care about power, and that's it. They care about, you know, having power over you and being able to manipulate you. And I don't know why anybody would want to live like that, but there are obviously, there are some big time psychological problems in this whole thing. And I don't know if I've not seen any way to fix these people. It doesn't seem to me that they ever change. They just, they'll go to jail and then they get back out and they'll find somebody else, or they just keep doing the same thing. And it's a wiring problem. But don't let somebody else's wiring problem rule your life. You might think you love them. You might love them. You might care about them. But at the end of the day, you got to care more about yourself, because if you don't, you're not living. And And then that's a life of misery. And I really feel bad for anybody that's going through that, because that's not a good road. And it's not, you're not living your life to your fullest. You're not doing the things that you're meant to do. You're not living the life you're meant to live. You're not, you're not shining, and that's the thing, is like, you need to shine, everything that you do, shine in it. Don't let somebody take it away. You see people going through this, and they're just, you can tell, you can tell, hanging their heads, not looking up at people, looking them in the eye. You can tell that there's just something wrong, something going on behind the scenes. And I'd tell the stalkers and the abusers out there to wise up and shape it up and quit doing this shit, but they're not going to, because this is how they're wired and this is who they are. And they're always going to be that, And I heard a guy the other day saying the best thing you can do is strap up, And I suppose if you're a female, you can get a concealed carry. I'd say get one, because you never know. And so many of these things often end in a terrible, tragic situation. And don't let that tragic situation be any part of your life. Get them out of there. Get them out of your life. Get them out of your way. And like I said, you get the protection order. They're probably not going to follow it anyways. But then at least you've got that. You can call the police. You can get away from them. Hopefully they don't come in guns a-blazing. You never know. It's just the world we live in. But you got to protect yourself. You got to stand up for yourself. Don't be embarrassed about it. Don't. Me as a man, I wouldn't call the police on another dude. But I've had it happen to me now twice in the last couple of weeks. And I've done nothing. One of them was trying to get somebody off my family's property, and then this thing today. And it makes me look like shit, because here the police show up, and I'm, what have I done? I've done nothing except try and help somebody, and it's bizarre. So the main thing is, don't have shame about it. Don't be embarrassed about it. Talk to somebody. Learn some self-defense if you can in your spare time. Everybody should learn some self-defense anyway. It's not a bad idea. Ladies, put some mace or a taser or both in your purse, Just protect yourself. Stand up for yourselves. Be open with your friends, your family, anybody. Talk to somebody. If you're going through this stuff, that's the main thing, the first step. Talk to somebody. And then take the uncomfortable, necessary steps that it's going to take to be proactive and to eliminate this from your life. Because for the couple of days that it's going to take to make this go through, and as much mental anguish and heartache as it's going to put you through, trust me, in the long run, you're going to come out much better, and you're not going to have to worry about it again, and you can go on and live your life in the way that you're meant to live your life. And then when, with doing that too, you also help out the next person down the line who this individual might happen to deal with and try this crap on. Once they have a record of it, it's a lot easier to keep them from doing this to somebody else. And they do have, these people that are stalkers and harassers and narcissistic sociopaths. That's their history. They go on to, you get rid of them finally, and they go right down the line to the next person. So by doing something like this to stop them, you're helping somebody else as well. So think about that too, even though it's uncomfortable on you, you might be helping the next person down the line to not have to deal with the same thing. And if you've gone through this type of thing, you don't want it on anybody else. I do not want what I went through on any other man out there. Even people I don't like, I don't care. I wouldn't put that on them, I really wouldn't want to do that. Even if I don't like them. That's just kind of, I don't know. It's just something to think about. But I think it's pertinent. I think a lot of people have found themselves in these type of positions. And I really feel for them, And I'm just, you don't have to do what I'm saying. I'm just offering my advice. This is my perspective of it and the way I see it. And I think that if you are in this situation and you follow my advice, that you're going to find yourself getting through it. And you're going to get through it whole. And it might suck. And it might be heartbreaking and gut-wrenching. And it might hurt. And it might suck. But it's better than the alternative. You'll get through it. Just be strong. Stand up for yourself. And, don't let some sicko define who you are. You define who you are. It's in your hands. So with that, I'm going to cut this one off. Hopefully, maybe it helps somebody out. I welcome your comments, on YouTube or Bookface. I'll try and put this out there on Anchor and Spotify as well. And hey, be good to one another. Stand tall, stay up. Help your brother, help your sister. A simple smile or a compliment goes a long ways. So in all things, be kind and do no harm. All right. I love you all. Peace out.